What if you could add a marketing expert, a lawyer, a major donor, and a community leader to your nonprofit's inner circle? That's the magic of a well-built advisory board for your nonprofit. But I know so many nonprofit leaders not even thinking about advisory boards, or worse, building them the wrong way and creating more headache than they're worth. So that's why in this video, we're going to talk about exactly what an advisory board is, the real pros and cons of having one, and how to structure it so it genuinely works, and where to look to recruit your first members. Before we dive in, I know that sometimes navigating different roles of a nonprofit's leadership, especially between board and staff, can feel confusing. So I put together a quick board versus staff roles checklist on how to know who is responsible for which duties in your organization. Comment the word roles below if you want this checklist, and I'll send you the link to access it. Let's start by defining exactly what we're talking about, because I know that the word board can trip people up sometimes. So an advisory board, sometimes called an advisory council, is essentially a group of volunteers who offer advice, expertise, connections, credibility, or a specific community perspective to your organization. And here's the most important distinction. They are not your governing board of directors. I repeat, an advisory board is not the same as your board of directors. Your nonprofit still legally has to have a board of directors, and that board has the legal and fiduciary responsibility for the organization. They hire and fire the executive director, they approve the budget and major policies, and they hold liability for what happens in the organization. Now, in contrast, an advisory board has absolutely zero governing power. They don't vote on budgets, they don't manage the staff, they have no legal liability, they simply advise. And that distinction matters a lot because it changes exactly how you would structure the group and how you would communicate the role and responsibilities to potential members. You're asking for their brain power, essentially, their expertise, their community connections, not their signature on your organization's tax return. Speaking from personal experience, there's a lot to love about the idea of an advisory board. A go-to group of experienced people offering fresh perspectives and warm introductions. Yes, please. It's a fantastic lower commitment way for busy professionals to volunteer and support your mission. And here's one of my absolute favorite things about them. They're a natural pipeline for future donors and future board of directors members also. When my own organization had an advisory board, multiple members went on to become full board members later. And this was super helpful because these people already knew the organization, they already loved the mission, and they required so much less onboarding and training since they already had experience on our advisory board. But there are cons also, and you need to be honest about them. The first is really that advisory boards take coordination. Unclear expectations can create confusion pretty quickly. And the biggest trap I see nonprofits fall into when forming advisory boards is what I call name collecting. It's when you build an impressive list of local celebrities or CEOs, but have no real plan to actually engage them. And an advisor who feels unused will quietly disengage. And that's a major missed opportunity on both sides. So I want you to think about it like this. Getting a purposeful, highly engaged group of maybe 3 or 4 people for an advisory board is far more valuable to your nonprofit than an unfocused group of 15 people. So how do you actually plan and structure an effective advisory board? Well, another big mistake that nonprofits make is recruiting people first and then figuring out the details later. So I need you to flip that entirely. Instead, start by asking what kind of advice, perspective, or connections your nonprofit actually needs right now. So to help you brainstorm, here are a couple of categories that advisory boards might fall into. The first is the Professional Expertise Council. Maybe you're building a new facility and need some advice from architects or real estate agents or contractors, but you don't need those people on your governing board for the next 3 years. Maybe you want to build out a new fundraising program that attracts corporate sponsors, so you need advice from leaders in corporate social responsibility. Maybe you have multiple areas of expertise you'd like input on, like marketing, legal, financial planning, and more. An advisory board focused on this professional expertise in those cases could be the right framing. The second I've seen is the community or lived experience board. Let's say you run an organization that serves youth. It's a great idea to have a youth advisory council made up of teenagers or college students who actually advise your programming and can speak from their perspective. Or maybe you serve a specific neighborhood, so a community advisory board ensures that the people most impacted by your work in that neighborhood have a voice in shaping it. Generally speaking, making sure that those you are serving have a voice and can help shape your programming is always a good idea. Now, the third type I've seen is the leadership sounding board. Sometimes an executive director just needs a small, confidential group of seasoned leaders to bounce strategic ideas off of. It's like a personal advisory council for your organization's leadership. So once you know the purpose of your advisory board, you have to nail down the expectations before inviting anyone. How often will they meet? Quarterly? Twice a year? What exactly are they being asked to do? Is the role time limited to a 1-year project? Who on your staff is responsible for keeping them engaged? What I recommend you do here is write a simple 1-page advisory board overview before you do any kind of outreach, because this will force you to think through clearly and help your potential advisors make an informed decision and understand what's expected of them if they do join. And on that overview, answer these 3 questions. What specific gap or need would this group fill? What would we be asking them to actually do? And do we have the staff capacity or leadership capacity to engage them meaningfully? When you are ready to recruit, remember this rule. The best advisory boards are built around function and real engagement, not just prestige. This all goes back to that name collecting thing I was warning you about earlier. You want to be intentional in thinking about the specific role you need someone to play and looking for people with relevant expertise, the lived experience, the community trust, or the relationships that match that need. Genuine mission alignment matters so much more here than a long or impressive title. You want to be brutally honest about the time commitment and expectations to participate and share their expertise up front. Don't add impressive names if you have no meaningful way to involve them. So something you can do is this. For each advisor spot you want to fill, write 1 single sentence describing exactly how you need that person to contribute. If you can't write that sentence, you might not be ready to fill that seat. Now let's talk about a question I know you're all asking. Where do you actually find these people? So you don't necessarily need to start cold calling CEOs on LinkedIn. In fact, I do not advise that. My advice is to start closer to home. First, consider your existing volunteer base. Look at your current volunteers. Who has been showing up consistently? Who has professional skills or community ties that you haven't tapped into yet? In my experience, your volunteers often have the expertise or experience that you might not know about yet. And plus, your volunteers already love your mission, and advisory board is just a great way to help them deepen their involvement. Another group to think about is former board members, if you have those. When a great governing board member reaches their term limit, an advisory board spot can be a wonderful way to keep their institutional knowledge in the building, so to speak. Just make sure, as we discussed earlier, that you're giving them real, meaningful things to advise on, not just a symbolic title. When you're ready to branch out, another place you can look is local professional associations. If you need specific expertise like marketing, legal, or HR advice, reach out to local chapters of professional associations with those focus areas. They are all around you. You'd be surprised. Many professionals are already looking for skills-based volunteering opportunities to give back to their community and actually might find serving on an advisory board to be a very rewarding opportunity without the higher stakes commitment of joining a full board of directors. And fourth, don't forget about your clients or program alumni. If you're building a community advisory board, the absolute best experts are the people who've actually experienced your programs. Their feedback is pure gold for improving your services. It's important to equip your entire team, your board, your volunteers, maybe even your advisory board with easy ways to share your organization's donation pages with their network. So before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to briefly talk about and thank the sponsor of this video, Click and Pledge. Click and Pledge makes it easy for nonprofits to start their fundraising strong and scale it with confidence, to communicate with your donors and equip your team members and supporters with the tools that you need to help you raise money for your cause. With Click and Pledge, you're going to get professional grade tools for super affordable startup level costs from day one. They've got customizable donation forms that you can plug right into your website to form the foundation of your online fundraising strategy. But Click and Pledge also has a number of other tools included in their affordable flat monthly costs that you can use as your nonprofit is growing its fundraising. Things like in-person and peer-to-peer fundraising tools and features, video fundraising with embedded donation links right in the videos, text-to-give tools, donor management tools, AI support like their Pulse feature to get help creating fundraising reports, and Ask Quickly, which helps your donors ask questions so that they can get the clarity that they need to convince them to make that donation. They've got Salesforce and other integrations all included with no contracts or surprise add-on fees. Now, one thing is, unlike some platforms that increase your fees as you grow, Click and Pledge pricing stays the same, whether you have 10 donors or 10,000. Use the QR code and link in the description to check out Click and Pledge, book a demo, and get your first $25 monthly fee waived. The best nonprofit advisory boards I've seen are purposeful, they are lightweight, and they're mutually beneficial. Your organization gets wisdom and connections and credibility, and your advisors get a meaningful way to support a mission they care about without taking on the heavy legal responsibility of joining a full governing board. When it is set up well with clear expectations and real purpose, everyone wins. Now, don't forget, if you want to make sure your organization has clarity around its other roles before you add an advisory board, comment the word roles below, and I will send you the link to download my free board versus staff roles checklist to help you clarify exactly who should be doing what. And if you want to keep learning how to build a sustainable, impactful organization, make sure you are subscribed to my free weekly newsletter linked below and at changemakercafe.com. If you're starting a nonprofit or growing a nonprofit and thinking about who you might need on your team beyond an advisory board, I highly recommend you check out this video next, which goes deeper on recruiting your first volunteers, board members, and other roles too. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.